There's a place I have found in the shade on the ground, far from all worries and troubling sound. When I go there to be by myself, only me, no one can guess what I came there to see. There's a sun in the sky, there's a cloud drifting by, all kinds of birds make you wish you could fly. And in the distance I see someone waving at me. I hope that it's you, but who else could it be?
Hey everybody, welcome Monday morning here at Untold Radio Network Studios for coffee time once again. And this morning I'm going to be joined by our boss, Doug Hajicek. That'll be nice. He's just running a minute late, but he will be in shortly. Got lots of fun stuff we're going to talk about this morning. Welcome everybody to chat, and also hello to everybody listening on the various podcast platforms that we upload to. So yeah, it was an interesting weekend here. One of the things we're going to be spending some time on this morning is the Northern Lights. I have a place up in northern Minnesota, but right now I'm at my home in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. And all across the state of South Dakota, east to west, it has been unbelievable. And I know that they've been having some opportunities in Minnesota and Wisconsin, also seeing the unbelievable display of northern lights lately. And we've got so many pictures that we're going to be sharing today. But first, I had kind of an interesting thing. Another thing that's going on around here. You know, it's spring when you start seeing this. This is our radar out of Sioux Falls radar here. And there are no clouds or storms in the area, but you'll see that there is all kinds of stuff on the radar. Do you know what that is? It's flocks of snow geese. Unbelievable how many geese are flying right now, and it's spring snow geese season here, but man, you can't find a field that isn't covered in snow geese right now. They're not easy to see from a distance because we still have quite a bit of snow here, but we're starting to get the patches of grass poking through. So I thought that was interesting. The radar's just covered in snow geese lately. So let me bring in our guest, and it's hard to call him a guest because he's the guy who signs all the contracts. So
Hey Jeff.
Hey Doug, how are you?
Good morning. I got a cup of coffee, reheating for like the third time in the microwave. I'm gonna go grab it.
It'll be extra well done then.
Extra well done. Triple cooked.
Dark roast. Twice
baked. So anyhow.
Yeah. Did you have a good weekend?
Yeah. I don't even remember it.
They go so fast, right?
So I guess, yeah, it was a good weekend. Yeah. I got to spend some time with my granddaughter, my new granddaughter.
That's awesome.
Esme. And then I worked a lot, and I don't know. Yeah, I had a good time, I guess. I just don't remember much.
Yeah.
How about you? Isn't that just weird? It just go bing and they're gone.
You know, it's funny because if you measure how fast a week goes from doing a show to the next time you do a show, it seems like every Monday I'm here doing coffee time in the morning, and then we do Pine Island research in the evening. And it feels like we just did this show 2 days ago. It's like the whole week flies by.
Exactly.
But,
yeah, it gets a little nuts.
Well, the days are getting longer. It'll start warming up here finally. And we can get outside and actually feel like we're doing something with our weekends rather than just running errands and
I
all
think
that.
I do think that's part of the weekends going really quick because it's winter and there's only so much you're going to do. Yeah, you can go take a walk and, at my age, am I going to go play in the snow? Probably not.
No. But if you can, on a Saturday and Sunday, if you can spend 6, 8 hours out in the boat fishing and then get your lawn mowed and,
Yeah,
come Monday, it feels like you did something,
yeah,
But
it's true. True. Yeah, I do a lot of biking in the summer and a lot of picnicking and, driving bikes in the forest. And it just makes the days seem longer.
yeah,
So did we go ahead and get into this Northern Lights phenomena that
I
happened this week here?
I just mentioned that's one of the things we will be talking about. The only thing I shared so far was the radar here that is clustered with flocks of snow geese. It is crazy. How many have you been seeing any
Well,
up
they're
in your
migrating.
area?
Yeah, I've been seeing not snow geese, but Canadian geese
Yeah, we
heading
get
north.
both.
Yeah,
The snow geese kind of follow from Texas all the way up through Kansas, Nebraska, south, all through the plains. The Canadian geese are mixed in with them, but I know when we're at our place over in Minnesota, you hardly ever see snow geese. It's always
right. No, see,
Canadian.
you're in the Flyway. If you're near Sioux Falls, that whole western part of Minnesota,
Yeah,
and the western or the eastern part of South Dakota, North Dakota are these huge migratory flyways for sandhill cranes.
yep,
Everything, even trumpeter swans. You guys
yep,
get
yep.
snow geese, and I just think they like it because it's more open and they feel safer.
And there's the lakes here are a little bit different too. The lakes in South Dakota, these pothole lakes, are just so fertile with
Yep, that's a
it
good
just
point.
seems like they're kind of, it's almost kind of a muddier
Yeah,
bottom that has more nutrients in
yep.
it. It's a lot different than the clear water lakes you have in Minnesota. So
Well, anyhow, back to the Northern Lights. The one thing that really gets you thinking when you see this kind of phenomena is space weather.
yeah.
All the things we don't know about space weather and how it's never talked about by the climate change people, the
And
climate change
and
scientists. They
the
never discuss the effects that the sun would possibly have. And I'm not,
mhm.
I do believe in climate change. For me personally, thank God, because I know for sure right where I'm sitting was under 400 feet of ice,
Yeah.
not more than 100,000 years ago. So I'm really glad it changed. I wouldn't be here right now.
Yeah. Well,
You know,
I don't. I'm kind of the same as you. I mean, I have no reason to say that the climate isn't changing. I do feel that to some degree it is cyclic, and it's cyclic
yeah,
over such spans of time
yeah,
that what we're learning so much right now about
yeah.
everything that's happened before us, what just off of what's happening now. But
Well, yeah.
um,
Well, then the other side of the coin, Jeff, is no doubt pollution, car exhaust has some effect on the weather. There's no doubt.
yeah,
But is it something you're going to be able to control by just collecting a bunch of money from people? No. In
probably
my
not.
opinion, you're going to slow it down because it gives you less money. It gives the middle class less money to develop new technologies, to do things. If everybody's
Sure.
poor, there's not going to be any new engines developed and new things developed because
Yeah.
we're all busy trying to survive. But I'm not a big advocate of collecting money. That's as political as I'll get. But I do know this: the weather is out in space affects us. Northern Lights is proof of it.
Yeah, the scientists are still learning so much. I had interesting thing that I ran across, and just so that those who don't have a lot of experience learning about the Northern Lights, I mean, basically, what you're looking at is you have the Earth's magnetic field redirects the particles from the sun that are emitted from the sun towards the Earth's poles, and that creates a reaction. So technically there's southern lights too. It's just that the northern lights are the ones that we tend to be more familiar with on our continent. But if you look at what NASA did in 2018, they had something called the Parker Solar Probe. And what that was is, they were on the hunt for clues about, how the northern lights really work. And in 2018, the NASA had launched the Parker Solar Probe, which is currently orbiting the sun and will eventually get close enough to touch the sun's corona. And while there, scientists hope that the spacecraft will collect the information that could reveal more about why the northern lights react the way that they do. But scientists are still learning about some of this,
Yeah, for sure. Well, I would imagine we know about 1/100 of 1% of the knowledge of space weather, northern lights, even space pollution. That's probably natural, that could affect us greatly.
Yeah.
So the whole thing is just it's a big bag of nothing at this point, our knowledge.
Yeah.
We don't
Well,
know
last
anything.
week I loaded up the boys, and my boys are 17 and 18. They got a big fascination with it. So we went and put some miles on. I mean, we went about 100-mile radius around, because the best way to see them is to get out of whatever town you're in, get out in the country, wherever you get rid of all that ambient light around you.
Yeah, it's the light pollution. Yep.
Yep. And it's interesting because what you're seeing with your naked eye is pretty impressive. But when you take a picture of it with a camera and then look at those pictures reveal, without editing them at all, they reveal so much more color. It's crazy how much different your naked eye is seeing them than what a camera captures them at.
Yeah. So, did you get some good photos?
Yeah, we took a ton of photos, and then I've got some friends who have been taking photos at their lake properties out here in South Dakota, and they were sending them to me too. So I've got a pretty good collection.
Well, let's just see a few of the good ones.
Yeah.
I don't know how interested people are in northern lights, but
let me pull it up here.
So apparently they were available as far south as New Mexico and Colorado. Which is rare.
I've
That's
heard that.
really rare. Really rare. So when I go up to, I was going to say, Jeff, when I've gone up to the Arctic and whatnot, you get the northern lights right above you, kind of like this. This is pretty much
this was the one
right from where you are.
This is the one picture, almost all of the lights that we saw were kind of on the horizon and up into, maybe a fourth of the way up into the sky.
Right.
But there was one moment we were out there that lasted about 5 minutes where it just went crazy straight above us. And I looked straight up and took a picture, and that's what it looked like.
Yeah.
Like it was just coming straight down at you. That's
stuff that I'll see like when I go to the Arctic. So you were lucky to witness that. Super lucky, super cool.
So there's some of another one of the pictures here. This is typically what they look like. I found this little abandoned water pump shed or something that was out there. But what's interesting is you'll see all of these greens with your naked eye. But then when you take the picture, it's the reds and the purples and the blues that really start showing up on camera that typically you don't see with the naked eye. But yeah, this is that same pump house just going on different directions around it. I mean, it was all over the place. You could see these. Here you can see them shining through this tree. And let's see here. This is kind of interesting because you'll see it flare out like into V's, and it isn't necessarily panoramic across the horizon at all times.
Did you do any videos?
We did take some video, but I'll tell you, the video for whatever reason does not show up as, at least the video that I took just didn't show up as well. But here's a really vivid one here that you can see the purples and
Yeah, that's cool.
And then let's see here. Here's another one that shows pretty much all the different colors that you'll see in them. But
crazy.
But yeah, and depending on, like, this was early in the evening, you start seeing the greens first, and it's just kind of like an electric fog, you know. They aren't like vivid, like strobing or anything like that early in the evening, but you know, the best time is about 9:30 to about 11:30. It seemed like the 2 nights we ran around, that was when they were at their brightest.
I'm wondering, did anybody in chat even see the Northern Lights? And another question, have you in chat ever seen the Northern Lights, period? I don't think, you know, I'm very surprised at all the people that never have seen Northern Lights.
You know, I was reading that back in 2014 was the last what they call super phenomena with the Northern Lights, where they were seen as far south as the Honduras.
Yeah.
But it's been a while since they've really seen them, you know. First of all, so that people understand, they follow the latitude, not the longitude. So if you can see them, let's say in Rapid City, South Dakota, you could probably see them in Sioux Falls, Minneapolis, all the way east to Milwaukee. But you get a couple 100 miles north or south of that band, you probably can't see it, you know.
Yeah.
And so that people understand why that is, I'll share this picture.
Well, they think that this,
they
think this phenomena was the best one.
This is the current
in 6 years. Yeah, they think it's been six.
This is the current one.
Jeff, can you even hear me? Hello.
Yeah, I can now. I'm sorry, my earbuds cut out there for a second.
Oh, okay.
I have it unplugged. I had to plug it back in.
They say that this storm was the most intense in 6 years, and once again, I would completely argue with that. This was far more intense than any storm in my life.
Yeah.
So I don't know where they get this 6 years. Jeff,
Jeff,
have you ever seen Northern Lights in Sioux Falls?
I have seen them in Sioux Falls, but nothing like this. Nothing like
that.
Actually, what I've been seeing in Sioux Falls, I've never seen anything like that up in Bemidji, Minnesota, or even in the Boundary Waters. I've seen some vivid Northern Lights up there. I've never seen them like this.
Yep, they say it was from a mass solar plasma coronal mass ejection that skimmed the Earth. So
it's crazy.
They said it was a G4 geomagnetic storm that was the most intense in nearly 6 years, and I'm like, nah. Don't think so.
I don't. You know, when they talk about that 2014 event where they were visible all the way south to the Honduras, I don't remember that really being talked about that much. Not nearly as much as this one is being covered. But
well, the thing is, people have to understand too, it's a storm like this that can knock out all of our electronics permanently. You know, not temporarily, but permanently. And that happened back in the 20s. Where even the telegraph lines were fried.
Yeah.
You
shared a few pictures here.
Yeah,
these were some of your favorites of the Northern Lights.
Yep, and this is what they look like from space, which is really cool.
Yeah,
looks
that
like
is
a crown.
Cool.
Yeah, it looks like a crown.
Yeah, if you look at the top left of it, how they turn red the higher they go is really interesting.
Super interesting. Yeah, even my favorites that I scoured the internet for, yours are pretty right in there. Oh, the colors.
Yeah, this where it kind of comes downward at you like this. I'd never seen that before. And
I have, but only at Snowgrove Lake.
Yeah, you got to get pretty far up into up north to get to that angle, but. Yeah, they're just vivid colors. And what's really great is that almost all the pictures that we took and pictures that I've seen online, is how you can see the stars in the background so vividly. I mean, it's almost like the northern lights make those white stars even pop differently than they do normally.
Yeah,
But
it's pretty cool.
so
Okay,
this is an interesting
well, yeah,
picture.
hang on. Yeah, well, hang on. Okay, so this is actually part of a video. It's a still capture from a video that showed these glowing clouds shimmering. This was taken in northern Sweden. And they called it a UFO light show. They had no idea, which is kind of what it looks like to me. But of course, the space agency took credit and said, "Oh no, those are our rockets." And I'm like, okay, sounds good to me. Yep, I'm buying it. And they're saying it was caused by colorful chemicals that were emitted into the sky by the rockets, by the rocket exhaust. And I'm like, nah.
Yeah, I don't how you could visually look at this picture and accept that explanation, have it make sense,
Exactly.
doesn't make any sense.
Kind of like, yeah, the swamp gas for, back in the 60s when they were investigating Project Blue Book. Just don't buy into it. But it's
Yeah.
certainly interesting.
Yeah,
Very
I mean, it's when you sent this picture to me, at first I'm like, what am I looking at here?
Yeah,
I mean,
it's weird. And if you look at the right and left, they are not mirror images of each other. They're very
No.
distinct. Look at the blue, the teal lights in the middle. They're very different, even a different amount. So it's
Yeah.
not like a mirror image. This was some phenomena that was occurring in Sweden. Have you ever seen the photos, Jeff, of the Norway spiral?
I have not.
Look that up. Just take a second. It's so worth it if you've not seen it. Type in Norway, go into Google, type in Norway spiral. And maybe there's a way you can share your screen on this. There's a ton of people that are not familiar with this, but it was absolutely spectacular. It was probably the most, once again, the space agencies said, oh, no, it's just a wayward rocket. And there's the people that witnessed this said there's no way it was a rocket. No way it was rocket exhaust. Did you find it?
Yeah, I'm pulling it up here.
So tell me that. And there's several, obviously, videos and photos, but we'll see if you grab one of the more spectacular
this is
ones. It's incredible. This was witnessed by probably 50,000 people. And it happened to be, this is what's really interesting. It happened to be when Obama was visiting Sweden. This took place. Look at this.
Let me
You can blow that up
on this.
And there's different states of it because there's still captures from a video. And as I remember, this happened in the late 90s or early 2000s.
Yeah, it's
looks like rocket exhaust to me.
That is, I mean, not only is the trail, but then it appears to be almost like a funneled opening inside of that trail is what's just projecting at you. And
so do you think it was coincidence that Obama was right there to see this? Yeah, that's what I find like, not buying into that either.
No, that's quite interesting.
Yeah, well, who knows? But anyhow, look it up on your own time, guys. Watch the videos and come to your own conclusion. So anyhow, have you ever heard? Just change the subject here. We'll get back to some space stuff. But have you ever heard of the toilet index?
No. What's the toilet index?
The toilet index made the news because apparently the United States has the lowest toilet index. In some cities, obviously, have a lower toilet index, and that is the amount of public toilets per 100,000 people. Wow. So it says on average, the United States only has 8 public toilets per 100,000 people, according to the Public Toilet Index. Can you imagine there's an agency? There is an actual agency that deals with this with our great tax money to determine
Oh
this.
yeah, they'd probably get $1 billion a year.
Oh my God. Okay. So apparently we are far behind like Iceland, as example, the country with the highest toilet index with 56 toilets per 100,000 people, 56 public toilets. The number drops all the way down to 4 per 100,000 for New York City. And Madison, Wisconsin apparently leads all of the U.S. cities because it has 35 per 100,000.
Huh.
So that's the toilet index. So the question is, Jeff, for everybody, do you know the toilet index for your city or your town?
I have
It's a very important thing to know by tonight.
you're
could
gonna
die.
have to do some research on that.
Oh yeah, I think everybody should spend time. And speaking of
I
chocolate,
know what our pothole index is here.
oh yeah, oh my God.
We've got
God,
plenty
this
of
year.
I was driving my kid's car and blew a couple
Yeah.
tires out on it the other day. Hitting
Oh, it's bad this year. Oh my God, the roads look like third world country all over, everywhere. Where we get the frost. It's bad.
Yeah.
So anyhow, I was talking about obviously the toilet index, which reminds me of the huge chocolate explosion they had out in Pennsylvania. Did you hear about this?
I did not hear about that either.
Oh, and I sent I sent you. Let's watch a clip too if you've downloaded it.
Let me find which one's which here. Okay, yeah, here we go.
And you can play the sound. Yeah, you can play. It's a news report. It's quite amazing.
This morning, the desperate search for survivors after a deadly explosion factory in Reading, Pennsylvania, killed 2 and left several injured. 9 people still unaccounted for.
I've got total destruction. It looks like Palmer candies.
The blast captured on their camera. PM. Emergency responders and firefighters from local and state agencies rushing to the scene.
I have one trapped under the rubble.
The cause of the explosion is currently under investigation. There are still rescue efforts underway at the scene.
The factory decimated. Another building close by significantly damaged.
The explosion was so, big that it moved that building 4 feet forward.
Neighbors
Wow.
feeling the blast from blocks away.
It was the loudest thing I've ever heard in my life, and it literally felt like the ground fell out from underneath you.
Ryan Regner says the explosion was so powerful, he thought it was an earthquake.
The whole house was shaking. The lights were kind of flickering. I was really
I think they're
freaked
going to
out.
show it here too.
Emergency responders will likely work through the weekend to clear the scene and get to the bottom of what happened.
So apparently now
That
seven people died. The reason I bring this up, there's a reason. Yeah, obviously there's this kind of thing happens. It's terrible. And they're still digging maybe survivors or people that have died in this. But the reason I bring it up is there has literally been hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of food plants that make food, processed food, that have gone up in flames and have exploded in the last 2 years.
Yeah, that I've heard a lot of people talking about it. And what's confusing is I get why an ethanol plant blows up. I get why a fireworks factory blows up. What makes a chocolate factory blow up?
Exactly. Chocolate's not the most flammable thing on the planet.
But I've heard this about, there's been at least 2 meat processing facilities that have been destroyed.
No, Jeff, they were the biggest ones in the world.
Yeah, just crazy.
One was for pork and one was for beef. But the food processing plants that have been going up, it's been almost every day. Fires and explosions. Planes have even crashed into several of them. It's really kind of getting me, a little weirded out. Like, is this domestic terrorism? Is it foreign terrorism? Is it, is it some other thing, or is it just all coincidence?
Yeah, I don't know. There's been a lot of things that I don't understand when it comes to why certain prices are so high at time. I get how supply and demand works. I get all that. But I mean, when you see egg prices were so high, they're finally coming down now. But I mean, for a year and a half, they were just 4 times, 5 times what they normally are. And yet you could go to Walmart and buy a package of 6 boneless, skinless chicken breasts, and they were the same price they always are, So we're not talking about the cost to transport a commodity. We're not talking about a disease amongst the chickens, I wouldn't think. Otherwise, why can you go to KFC and the bucket of chicken is the same price? Why were the eggs
same price? I mean, it's gone up
so expensive?
But it has gone up, Jeff, in price from inflation. I mean, it's the fast food. I mean, you could not go to a fast food restaurant and get out of there for 2 people for under 30 bucks. It's really tough. Just
as a matter of fact, I have a hard time, when I take my boys out to eat somewhere. It's like, what it would cost us to go to Hardee's or Arby's or whatever you have in your area. Hell, for another $10, you can probably go to a steakhouse and sit down. I mean, it is crazy how much fast food costs lately.
Yep, it's pretty bad. Anyhow, I just thought to bring it up. I don't have any answer for it, but I do find it a little odd, a little concerning. There's so many shortages. Like I read last night, nice thing to read right before I went to bed, that we are literally 13 years behind in our ammunition production.
Yeah.
And that includes missiles. And yet we're now poking the bear with Russia and China. And yet we have less munitions than we've ever had.
Munitions is something that about 10, 14 years ago, one of the big things that was being talked about was these large orders that were coming in for government orders for agencies that typically don't use ammunition.
Post office.
I mean, like FEMA was ordering like 4.2 million rounds of 5.56 ammo. It's like, what? 40 cal 9mm. It's like, what does FEMA and different places like that need all this ammunition for? And it drove the prices up. They kind of stayed up. Right now, I went to a gun show yesterday with my kids, with my oldest son, and he does these 3-gun competitions where you go through the competition, you shoot an AR, a shotgun, a pistol, all in one time thing. And so competitively he shoots, and I was looking at prices. You're familiar with a .338 Lapua. I mean, it's a larger bolt action that's typically used for moose hunting or
I'm not familiar with a .333 Lapua.
Well, a .338 Lapua right now, what it would cost you to buy a round loaded is almost what you're going to pay for a piece of brass to load yourself. It's crazy.
Well, I know I used to be able to buy like 22, 22, whatever, 100 shells, 22 for like $2. And now it's only $25 now.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy.
So ammunition has gone through the roof in price, but the shortage seems to be subsided a bit.
Yeah. I mean, some of that is obviously, look, after every election or every announcement of something that might happen, it just people's impulses that spikes it. Costs for ARs, for instance, those will skyrocket, and then 4 months later they're back to normal. It's just whatever the latest news headline is will make a lot of people run to buy ammunition and food.
Well, to give you an example,
water, whatever,
to get back to the military, right now we are using every 48 minutes a month's worth of what we can produce in a month in munitions, every 48 minutes. So it's putting us another month behind in our stockpiles and whatever we have. So anyhow, whatever. It was an unsettling thing to read. I had no idea we were that far behind. It's kind of a little unsettling.
Well, it's getting stockpiled. There's no doubt about that either. I mean, all of my friends who go to the range and shoot, the amount of ammunition they own now compared to what they owned 10 years ago is at least tripled in everybody that I know that shoots. So, I mean, you know, they get sick of seeing these up and down prices. So if they can find any good deal, instead of buying 100 rounds, they buy 1,000 rounds, you know?
Yeah.
But
yeah, it's kind of weird. Another thing in the news recently was this just insane tornado that went through Mississippi and Alabama.
yeah.
And the reason it was so insane, it was very clearly visible to me when I looked at the video. I have never seen a tornado this intense by wind speed, and they rate it as an EF4. But I think I sent you a video. It's clip 3.
Yeah, I got it.
It is just insane. This is real-time video.
Was this one that I could play? One of these you said don't
Yeah, you
play the
couldn't.
volume.
I
think this one I can.
Yeah, yes, yeah, you can. You can play the sound. Yep, you can play the sound on this. Getting kind of a bad connection.
Is it buffering a little bit?
Yeah, it's buffering. You probably have to rewind it and do it again here. Why don't you rewind it?
Yeah, let it finish here and we'll get it going.
You're probably the wind speed on this thing is just astronomical. Just let it play, because there's a guy filming this on his back porch. Play it one more time.
And then eventually he heads for cover.
The
It looks
inflow,
like it goes black.
So tornadoes also suck air in from quite a distance. Play it one more time.
Yeah.
There is a tire that goes flying from behind the guy filming into the tornado. To give an example of the suction. What would you say, Jeff? That's a half mile away, quarter mile?
Yeah, it's probably only a quarter
Watch
mile.
this tire.
I mean, it's not that far.
Do you see that tire? That's the inflow.
Yeah.
That was insane. I've never seen inflow like that. It's one way you know there may be
Doug, like he was only 300 or 400 yards away from that. It looked like.
No, I think it was at least a quarter mile.
Pretty small pond, and maybe a little
quarter
further.
mile.
It's
That's
quarter mile, maybe.
Yeah. But look at this giant tire. Watch the fence. Tornado's nowhere near that fence.
Yeah.
There was a big, huge semi-truck tire that goes flying into that storm. Anyhow, that was crazy. So my prayers certainly go out to all the people that lost their life. 26 dead. The death rate will probably go up. And apparently the path of this thing was northeastward across Mississippi and Alabama, according to AccuWeather. The rural towns of Silver City and Rolling Rock, 60 miles northeast of Jackson, Mississippi, were just literally devastated. And I sent you another clip 4 of the devastation.
Just pulling it up here.
It's just insane. It's so sad, these tornadoes. 1 minute
This is the
everything's
one
great.
you said don't play the audio. They must be
Yeah, no audio on this.
language.
But it just scrubbed the ground and tossed cars around like they were toys. Scrubbed everything bare. But can you imagine? I mean, think about how bad tornadoes are, because one moment everything's normal in your life. Everything's perfect. You hear, there's a storm coming. Next thing you know, you're completely wiped out of every belonging, or you're dead. The trend
I've
nowadays.
been in 2 different tornadoes here.
Oh yeah, you're definitely kind of on the edge of the alley. The trend now in Minnesota is no basements. They're not building basements to keep the cost down of houses. I think it's just sad they don't build at least some kind of a cheap little 4x4 shelter, on the bottom. Do something. God, give people something. But they're building all these slab houses.
That's
now.
one thing I noticed here in real estate. With my real estate firm, I've noticed that to where a lot of the contractors, the baby boomer generation is to a point to where there's a lot of people who don't want to own an acre of land to mow, but yet they aren't ready to go to retirement homes either. So this whole slab on grade, single level, wide hallways, those types of homes are actually, there's a big market for those. And
Look at that water tower, Jeff. Did you see that? Split right into a steel water tower.
This is crazy.
My son bought a home, slab home, of course. It's all he could find. Very expensive slab home. But he has a tornado tube installed in his home. So he climbs into a tube that's got a chair or a seat, a bench in it. It'll hold like 3 people, 4 people. And God, could you imagine riding a storm out in that thing? Jesus.
When I was a kid, I wasn't a kid. I was like 17 years old. We had a cellar area. We had an earth home. We had built a home kind of into a hill so that the front was
into
exposed.
a berm, right? Yeah, where the front is exposed.
Yep. And this had a conventional roof on it. It was all one level and pretty big, but conventional roof. But the roof at the back of the home was level with the ground, and the front was exposed. And because we didn't have a basement, we had a deal where you could flip this door open and go down, just like the old time root cellars, kind of, a modern version of that. And we had a tornado that was coming through the small town we lived in. And I was outside. My mom and dad were down in the cellar thing, and they were like, "Oh, it's getting real bad. I can hear it." Well, I was up there. I realized that the garden hose was laying in the yard. So I was spraying the top of this thing with it, telling them how hard it's raining. But it was me with the garden hose for a little while. But
I helped my father design an earth home back in the 70s. So he wanted one. And I'm like, "Oh, okay." So we designed it. He had it built. The problem is, of course, the mold and mildew problems you can get with an earth home, unless you keep a dehumidifier running all the time. But people didn't think about that back then.
Yeah. My dad loved to build a home about every 3 years. We'd move to a different house. He's just like he'd spend a summer building a home, and that earth home, nobody around us had ever even had one of these things before, let alone seen one, a lot of them. But the front of it had like railroad tie size angled beams that went down and butted up to beams that were sunk into like 10-foot concrete pools into the ground, so that it couldn't slide out from the pressure of the earth behind it. But we had solar panels on it. And literally between the heating, this is in snow country, we spent like $138 a year to heat that home because of the insulation of the earth around it, and then the solar panels. It was crazy how economical it was.
Yeah, but they've totally gone out of style again now.
Yeah.
I have a feeling that in the future, near future, they'll come back in style.
They'll probably not only come back in style, but I think it's just going to be, we're going to build homes completely underground.
Could happen. But anyhow,
for the safety factor.
But the trend with these slab homes, I think, is really bad. I think they should just automatically include a storm shelter in every one of them,
Yeah. No, I agree. When me and my wife got married, it was on May 30th, 1998. And that was the day of the Spencer tornado in South Dakota, which was an F5 tornado that completely wiped out a town that was about 25 miles away from where we lived in Sioux Falls. It was a little further than that, maybe about 30 miles. But we had gotten married that day and it was humid. We had a little convertible that I had gotten from the dealership to drive for the wedding. I mean, it was beautiful out, but it was really muggy all day. And that night we were going to be flying out on our honeymoon the next morning. That night we were staying at a hotel, and the alarms started going off, the tornado sirens. And at the time I was a volunteer with our local fire department, and my pagers were going off left and right saying that they were asking for all the fire departments within an hour of this place to come to Spencer, South Dakota, because the whole town had been leveled. And it wasn't a big town, but I mean, it was a small town, USA. You know, it had a bank and a main drive, convenience store, and probably about 150 homes. And me and Joni drove there that night just to look at it. And it was absolutely crazy. There wasn't a building left standing at this place.
Jeez.
But it had been an F5 tornado that had gone through, and it was on national news. We were out on Martha's Vineyard during our honeymoon, and people would say, "Where are you from?" And we're like, "We're from South Dakota." And they say, "Are you from Spencer, South Dakota?" Because they'd heard about this tornado. I'm like, 250 people live in Spencer, South Dakota. It's like not that big of a place, but yeah, no.
Well, let's turn our attention a little bit to our chat here. There's been some pretty amazing comments here. Somebody had mentioned they had just missed those tornadoes that came through here. That was Jennifer Arnold had mentioned that. Said it was really a scary day.
Yeah, I can't imagine.
A
lot of people have experience, living down in Florida and stuff with hurricanes, but maybe they haven't really had much experience with tornadoes, and vice versa. I can't say that I've been on the ground during a hurricane.
Yeah, I haven't either.
On the coast somewhere. But what was interesting is the night we stayed at the hotel on our wedding night, there was a bus tour there of people from Florida that were going out to see Mount Rushmore. And they'd never been in a tornado warning before. And they had called everybody out of the rooms down to the lobby. Mm. And these were all retired, 70s, 80s year olds. And they found out that me and Joni got married that day. They started playing music in the lobby, and all these old guys are taking turns dancing with my wife. They said, "What's it like when a tornado comes?" And I said, "What's it like when a hurricane comes?" He said, "Well, they tell you it's coming. You got a day or two to get stuff boarded up and get prepared and this and that." I said, "Well, a tornado warning, you usually have about 5 minutes where they say there could be a tornado there. And then all of a sudden you'll hear sirens go off, and about 30 seconds after that, it'll sound like a freight train coming. And if it hits your house, it'll just be gone." I mean, there's really no preparing for anything when there's a tornado warning. You're under tornado watch, and then they'll put out a warning if they notice circulation on a radar, but even the warnings don't mean it's on the ground.
Yeah, keyword, if they notice.
Yeah.
I don't depend on them. I'll usually, when you get kind of a sense, but I'll be watching things like the inflow. Is there a lot of air heading towards the storm? That's a really good indication you're going to have a tornado.
Yeah. The amount of time it takes for, circulation to start on radar and that tornado to form and hit the ground and start wiping stuff out is literally like 45 seconds. So if you think they're going to see it on radar and then the news is going to report it to you, they're going to report to you 10 minutes after it wiped something out.
Yep, absolutely. Well, let's move on from tornadoes here.
Yeah.
Speaking of close calls, I don't know, a lot of people aren't aware, we had an asteroid come within 175 kilometers of Earth, which is not much distance when it comes to space. And this asteroid was big enough to take out a whole big city. It wasn't no little tiny asteroid. So it went between Earth and the moon.
Wow.
That's spooky. That's a close call. And this just happened on what was it, March 23rd, I think, 3 days ago. But 175 kilometers. There's what, 0.62 miles per kilometer, so that brings it to about maybe 108,000 miles away from us. It's not much in space terms. It's pretty
Would
close.
something like that be visible if it was at night?
It was visible. Oh no, it was
like a
visible.
flame trail. Like
It was
a big
visible to the
shooting
naked
star?
eye.
Wow.
Yeah, you can find video of it too, and you could see it with binoculars. Good, you could see it with, I guess, your naked eye if you know where to look. So it was kind of nuts. Apparently, it's rare. Obviously, a huge asteroid like this that is between 40 and 90 meters in diameter to come that close to any planet, let alone Earth. They describe it as a once in a decade event, and I'm thinking BS on that too. You know, I can only imagine there's so many of these little close calls that happen that we just don't know about. We don't hear about. Nobody spotted it, because this happened because one guy spotted it.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, really? So,
yeah, there isn't like 1,000 Hubble telescopes around the Earth where everybody's viewing 24 hours a day like prison guards at the sky. You know, I mean,
there was a time I was in Fayetteville, North Carolina, and I was at a stoplight, and I'm sitting there looking straight ahead, and in the horizon I see something that's probably maybe 10 times the size of the moon, with the normal size of the moon, with sparks coming off it, moving slowly just across the horizon from my right to left. And it was so slow, Jeff. It was just like, you know, it was like going like that quick.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, oh my God, we're about to be hit by an asteroid, you know? So, and I was maybe a mile and a half from my mother-in-law's house. So we get there, and on the TV, they're talking about this thing that was over Raleigh, and that's like 120 miles from Fayetteville. And they were saying it was a down plane, maybe they were looking for it. I'm like, oh my God, the BS that you hear on the TV. No doubt that was some kind of a giant object. You know, that was, maybe it's bigger than what they're talking here. That I don't know what happened to it, but I watched it for a long time, and it was massive. And it was going slow. It was some kind of a fireball from some meteorite or an asteroid. So, and the fact it looked like it was so small meant it was probably pretty far away, and it was just skirting our atmosphere. So, who knows? That was back in the 90s.
You think a lot of that BS that we used to hear like that is on the, you know, downfall, so to speak, just because of the flow of information that exists now? Or
well, sure, it's because of things like TikTok that allow anybody to post news, which is certainly one of the reasons they're trying to ban TikTok. Yeah, I realize the Chinese own it and blah blah blah, but I also realize that certainly it's competing with other social media platforms, and they're trying to get it banned. And I agree. Yeah, ban it for government employees if you're worried about security.
Sure.
But TikTok and Reddit and a lot of these places are certainly good sources for news, sometimes quicker than you can get it on the mainstream, or things that the mainstream just doesn't cover at all.
I think that's what I was kind of getting at is, you know, the reluctance to maybe throw out a narrative that you're trying to explain something, saying, boy, I hope they buy it. We're so equipped to throw the red flag on everything at light speed.
Yeah.
That I kind of feel like maybe some of those things you used to hear where you kind of thought that doesn't make sense. They don't even try pulling that anymore, maybe just because of the fact that they couldn't possibly pull it off. That disinformation is on real events that are happening. It's hard to pull off. You know, there's a lot of disinformation on everything else.
You got to put the comment up from the tall ones. He goes, it's why I wear a helmet everywhere I go. I love it. Awesome creative comment there. Some real witty people.
Oh yeah,
I love the wit. I love it.
the tall ones. That's Brent Dill. He was on my
Oh
show here.
yeah, you're right. Yeah.
And I've got a guest tonight that was one of the components in your when you
Tristan.
had that panel.
I know who it is.
Yeah.
Tristan.
Yeah. Caillou Ninja is his name in the chat. A lot of people have gotten to know him.
Yeah, he might as well just use his real name since he's been exposed.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you something, and I've known Tristan for a long time. One of the things I appreciate about him, I don't care if it's my show or one of the other dozen shows that I watch, that guy asks the most awesome questions.
He's really a great person.
You can tell he really thinks this stuff through.
Yeah, no, we love Tristan. Do you hear that, Tristan? We love you. Think the world of you. So yeah, he's just he's a great young man. Anyhow, let's see here. Oh, they mapped all the water on the moon. All of it.
Now that is something I did read about. I don't remember.
But here's what's funny. They released the map and it's just a bunch of blocks. It's like a bunch of blocks in one area. I'm like, oh my God, really? That's not a map. It's like, a circle over a vast area, but it's in a mountainous region that's in the shade. And the southern, let's see here. It covers, the map covers 230,000 square kilometers of the lunar surface. But the actual map of the water is just this block. You couldn't really use it. But apparently, God knows we spent billions of dollars with that map of where water was that we've known for, 40, 50 years. Yeah. This is information we knew 50 years ago. And they always act like it's brand new information. I saw that same water map, Jeff, I swear to God to you, 40, 50 years ago.
When I read I didn't see the map. I was reading the article about it, and I was thinking in my head, I swear that I've seen this, but that I've seen this like
old info,
poorly drawn out. But yeah.
I forgot to do something a little earlier. I'm going to do it right now, so give me just a second.
Show your support for the Untold Radio Network family of shows and join in on the conversation by using super stickers and super chats on YouTube. Got a question you want answered? Ask it live via a super chat and get real-time responses from our shows, knowledgeable hosts, and guests. Help keep the Untold Radio Network shows running strong. We need your support. Send your super chats and stickers now.
And there we go.
Oh,
something we've integrated into the Untold network.
You're amazing, Jeff. I was right in the middle of mid-conversation and that came on. I'm like, how did you do that so fast?
Well, we were going to do it after we were done talking Northern Lights.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
It totally escaped my mind. And I thought, man, I don't want to do it at the end of the show. But
so anyhow, we were talking about old news is new news. And I get so confused when I've known something for 50 years and then they release it as some new information. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
It's like thinking UFOs are real and they've been buzzing naval ships. It's like, well, I kind of remember knowing that back when I was 18. I'm like, oh, okay. So I guess it's new news now.
Seeing people address something that has, in my mind, kind of been accepted or ground that's been covered, maybe there's even still an answer to figure out, but just the way that it's brought up. I was watching yesterday a channel that is about 6 million strong on YouTube. And it's these guys look and debunk different things in science and all this different stuff. It's 3 guys. And what caught my eye is they were going to look at the Patterson-Gimlin footage. And it was provided to them by a friend of theirs. They seemed, their talk of it sounded like they'd never seen it before, first of all. That seemed odd. But as they're watching it, they were saying that they didn't believe it was real based on all these different things that they were mentioning. In their mind, it was the bottom of the feet as the feet were picked up didn't look normal. Its gait didn't look normal. However, they spent the whole video calling it him. And I'm thinking, they notice all these things.
Oh, are you talking about the video where these supposed special effects people looked at it?
Yep.
Oh my God, that was the most ignorant thing I'd ever seen.
I know. They kept calling it him. It's like
they never even
you failed to see these large breasts flopping around on this thing, but yet you see all this other stuff that makes you think it's not.
If you see that video, you realize how they just, like, it was the first time they even looked at it.
I know.
And they go, "Oh yeah, its gait is normal." I'm like, I've studied the gait for 30 years now, and it's anything but normal.
Yeah,
the proportions aren't normal. The muscles that are shown are not normal. And it's like, I always say to people like that, go make your own suit if you think it's so damn easy.
Well, they showed the bottom of the feet. They're like, well, look, there's no hair on the bottom.
Oh, it's got boots on. No. They said it has boots on.
Yeah.
It's wearing boots.
But it's almost what they were implying is that they felt that the bottom of the feet are so light colored compared to
the same hairline, but it's the same hairline chimps have.
Do you think that these things would have hair on the bottom of their feet when they walk around on them?
Exactly. The other thing too that made the Bluff Creek creature have lighter feet is because the soil there is damn near white. It's gray. It's a light gray. And if it had wet feet walking in Bluff Creek, in the actual creek, which it was standing right next to where it's wet, the sand is going to stick to its bottom of its feet.
Yeah.
And I mean, it stuck to the bottom of my shoes when I was there. So anyhow, it's just I didn't want to give those guys any attention.
I just thought it was interesting. To me, the ironic thing wasn't what they said about why they didn't believe the video. It was really what was ironic is they kept calling it him.
Yeah, I know.
They failed to see it as
Tristan sent that to me, and I was like, oh my God, I actually got angry watching it.
Yeah, it's
like
it's hard to choke down.
The only time I've been angry in a month was watching that video. It actually made my blood pressure go up.
Well, we better switch the subject then.
Anyhow, okay, we were talking about the moon, and did you know there's such a thing as space lawyers now? Space lawyers.
I did not.
So there's apparently a discussion on who owns the moon, right? Who's going to claim it? Mm-hmm. What's going to happen now that Russia is going back? China has been frequenting the moon. Of course, supposedly, and we don't know for sure. We don't know anything. That, we planted the flag there, right? And there's plenty of evidence for the side that says, well, we faked the whole moon mission. There's plenty of evidence, and I'm just open-minded. I wouldn't be shocked either way. I really wouldn't be. I believe we went, but maybe we didn't. There's some pretty compelling evidence we did.
There's a lot of things that are confusing about, like when they show the flag and it looks like it's waving in the wind, and I'm thinking,
yeah, there's just some weird stuff. Well, we just got a super sticker from Uncle Bones. Thank you very much.
You so much.
He's always so generous.
Yep.
Anyhow, but so back to space lawyers. So apparently in 1967, an outer space treaty was signed, with the United States and the Soviet Union, because back then we were the only ones in the space race.
Sure.
So apparently, so let me just kind of read this. So in 1967, an outer space treaty was signed, to which both the United States and the Soviet Union, as well as other spacefaring nations, had become a party to. Both superpowers agreed that colonization on the moon or on Earth had been responsible for tremendous human suffering, meaning all of our borders. It caused many armed conflicts, blah, blah, blah. And they were determined to not repeat that on the moon. And so the point is, they're all talking about land grabs now. And what would we do if China goes, oh, by the way, this is, this section's ours? Because there's probably a bunch of minerals on the moon that are valuable.
Sure, I would. there's got to be some areas of the moon that would be worth more than other areas if you were to put a dollar amount on
There
it.
could be lithium or God knows what on there. But anyhow, they're all discussing it now. So there's space lawyers working on who owns the moon. All I know is it's not me. I don't own any of
Well,
it.
whoever owns the moon, that just opens up the next question: who owns Mars then, and who owns the sun?
Exactly. Well, it's probably going to be whoever can defend it and get up there. You know, there's going to be somebody at some point that is going to claim a chunk of the moon as theirs. It's going to happen. It's just going to happen. I mean, this is going to happen probably in all of our lifetimes.
Yeah.
Which is amazing. But the thing is about the moon that's so weird. There's so many facts about the moon. The fact that it's covered in this regolith that's highly reflective. That's just a thin layer of this almost the same material that's in our reflective signs, these glass beads. And so it's covered with that. And yet we see it as beauty. So why is that on there? Why is it the exact distance that you can block the sun out? You know, why? The exact amount. Why is it doesn't spin? It's just aimed always the same way towards us. Why does it ring like a bell? Why does this moon happen to be in the perfect spot where it wells up all the nutrients in our lakes and rivers, or not rivers, but oceans? Because life literally would die without the moon because of the nutrients would all settle to the bottom of the ocean, and life in the ocean would pretty much all die.
Yeah.
Without the tides and the moon, the pull of the moon, including in the Great Lakes and many lakes. The fact it lights the way at night, just the right amount. It's all these things that just kind of go, it seems like a man-made. If you really think about it, there's so many coincidences with the moon. You almost have to lean towards a man-made object or a placed, terraformed object that was placed there, not something that just happened by accident from the Big Bang,
No, I would agree. I mean, you're either looking at something like you say is man-made or God-made, by design.
Or just placed there.
Something by design.
By design,
not by chance.
Right. It's too perfect. It's just so perfect. I did a study in Lake Superior where I put an underwater camera system, and among other instruments that it had on it, it had a seismometer. So they were flotation tubes, just a bunch of thin tubes on a long fiberglass rod, and in front of a camera, so I could watch the flotation tubes lean and stay leaning during the inland tide in the Great Lakes. So you could just see that inland pull of the moon, in which direction the tide all went. And it just welled up all the nutrients and fed all the copepods, which start the food chain. Then the mice and shrimp eat the copepods, and then the fish come in, then eat the shrimp. And, and I mean, the whole food chain would collapse without the moon. It's just all too perfect. And then the other thing that's never talked about, it's how the moon probably affects our weather.
Well, it'd be hard to imagine that it doesn't when it affects the tide and everything else the way that it does.
But it's never talked about. That's what bothers me. We don't discuss it. We just ignore it. Even the scientists, you got to be all ashamed of yourself for just ignoring all these things and the correlations. For instance, why is it me? Why was I the first person to ever study the inland tides, the Seiche in the Great Lakes? I'm not a scientist.
No.
Why was I the only one with my own money to do that?
It doesn't make
any
sense
sense to me.
Because it's one of the things that we've talked about in the past, where science and discovery used to be driven by man's curiosity. If we stood on a hill and wondered what kind of fish are in that river down there, we went down and figured it out. Now it seems to be driven by agendas and money. And if there isn't an agenda that you know, and then I guess you could kind of factor in the whole, there's so many, there's only so many universities and labs and capabilities to work on something that when you start taking the capacity of what they could work on at any given time and you start filling it with the study of virus transfer and everything else that has to do with what we've been worried about the last few years, you kind of wonder how much is it even possible anymore for real scientists to stand there and say, I'm curious about that, let's figure out an answer,
Right.
if somebody's not there, if the government's not writing them a check to do it?
Right. No, I know, but it's just, I don't know. I just find it odd. So, but I actually it scares me that I had to, out of my own curiosity, build the Benthic Explorer, fund to try to get scientists involved and people involved in it, just so we could measure the inland tide as one of the experiments, and to look at the copepod life and the shrimp life and in the Great Lakes, to see the food chain for the first time in history. It had never been done. And it just scares me because I'm not a bright person.
You can kind of use the same argument with the whole discovery of the giant squid, Doug. I mean, you're out on the deck in the middle of the night with a thing you built in your garage, a camera system, saying, I'm going to put this out there, and you get video of something and you start wondering, you know how many universities and scientific well-funded teams there are searching for new species out there, and yet they didn't do this?
Well, it's like there's no common sense, for 30, 40, 50 years they've been using these little ROVs to try to film, aquatic life. You can't do it with a robot.
Yeah.
These things are not dumb. Giant squid they're not stupid. They're going to book. So you're never going to get footage of one of these things. And all I did different was basically put it on a real, camera, disguise it on a real living squid, and then send him down to the bottom.
Yeah.
Which they swim every day anyhow. They travel up and down the water column. So it's just common sense.
Yeah.
But I don't consider myself smart by any means, just curious, but just more like old-fashioned common sense. But it just scares me, all the things scientists don't do. I don't trust science anymore because I know all the things they don't do. And I just wish they'd get off their duff and get your own curiosity going and just start doing stuff. Because like the moon, we talked about the moon and effects on weather. Yeah, they know it, they may know a little bit, but the point is the public, they've never connected the dots for the public. No one's doing any studies. Instead, we're doing stupid things like, you read some of the grants that the government pays for. It's like, oh my God, what a waste of money.
Yeah.
It's insane.
Well, I think that's one of the other worries that I tend to have, is that if we can admit that science seems to be driven by purse strings and agendas, if they're going to control, if the money and the agendas are going to control where science goes and what it discovers, that means it's also capable of deciding what it doesn't discover. If you're going to write a check for millions of dollars to go look at something to help this agenda and prove this, you're kind of determining what you want the outcome to be before it's completed. You just want scientists to basically sign off on it and give you the colors that are needed to paint the picture. As far as what the picture is going to be, you've already told them if you're the one writing the check. And so that gets a little worrisome as far as are there things that they don't want people to know? They certainly would have control over that if they can control what we do want to know.
Yeah. Well, it's the point of the wasting of the resources and the impression that we all get that everything's under control. We know everything. Just read, and just this little narrow scope of what we tell you is the way it is.
Mm-hmm.
God, it's like, that's why I love it. We have this audience. And our audience, no doubt, are the most intelligent people on the planet because they're curious about learning things that aren't in the mainstream media. So they're far more intelligent, and that's true of our audience. And I'm not saying our audience, but anybody who's in an audience of any show that's discussing mysteries and things.
And they're searching for answers.
You're looking for answers, and it's that curiosity that I congratulate you for. So we talk about cultures wasting resources. So I read this yesterday. They recently just found 2,000 mummified ram heads in honor of Egypt's most powerful pharaoh. I'm sorry, that's a big waste of resources. Back in that, even in that day, because this has happened throughout history, where resources suddenly get misappropriated, and obviously that culture's gone, right? They disappeared. The Egyptians back then, but think of the effort it would have taken to put 2,000 and to mummify 2,000 ram heads. That's a lot of labor. And they just recently found this area. So it's okay. So let me read this. Egyptian Ministry of Tourism and Antiquities found more than 2,000 mummified ram heads, which have been discovered in Egypt. Archaeologists at King Ramses II Temple of Abydos found the mummified remains. So they also found mummified dogs, wild goats, cows, deer, and ostrich. So apparently, this was recently uncovered. Apparently, this find was 270 miles south of Cairo, and this was all done in a period of over 1,000 years from the 6th dynasty of the heroic age. So that makes this discovery about 4,300 years old. But what a waste of resources. I kind of feel like that we're in that same kind of a deal right now. We're putting all of our resources in some really weird things, rebuilding a road because it's maybe in the wrong place. They feel it's causing, harm. It's like, no. Fix the damn roads we have. I don't know. A lot of misappropriation of resources. And we only have so many resources.
Yeah.
We all have only so much time here, That's I guess that's what really kills me. So anyhow, I'm on a rant today, and
Did you happen to see Did you see on the news that?
What?
Hold on just a minute here. I got a lag going here. They did. I read a news story, and they actually had a picture of it, of another human body that they discovered, an Iceman, so to speak, that they said was 10,000 years old, I believe.
I haven't heard this.
Yeah, I'll have to send you the link to it.
That's exciting. Frozen?
They had it was frozen, and it looks like it almost looks like a frozen creek bed where the ice must have withdrawn off of it. But this thing is
this a glacier that got revealed or melted?
I think so.
Russia, U.S.
This
Siberia?
body is on its knees leaning forward, and the picture shows it from the back, and there's a couple guys standing around it. But it's long dark hair, and this thing looks like it died last week. I mean, the backbone, the vertebrae, you can kind of see that defined through the skin really well. But this body for 10,000 years old, the skin and everything looks incredible. So I'll have to send you a picture of that, or send you a link to that.
Yeah, I'm surprised I missed that.
I seen the story was on Saturday. So usually when you see stories like that, it's something that they discovered, 10, 12, 14 days ago, and now it's just reaching the media. But yeah, I thought that was pretty intriguing.
Yeah, I'd like to see it, because obviously they can do a really good DNA analysis if it's been frozen all these years.
Yeah.
That might be the earliest, I would imagine, earliest intact body they've ever found.
Yeah, I don't know. I didn't read the whole article, so if they had comparatives to other examples throughout history, I certainly didn't see them. But
see, I'm all in. Here's what I'm in. I'm all in for bringing back the caveman. I think we should bring back the caveman. Don't you think, Jeff?
Take the DNA and make
another.
a
Let's
test
get
tube
a whole
caveman.
Yeah, let's get a whole bunch of them and release them into New York.
Yeah, that would
probably
be interesting.
They probably could do a better job of running New York.
They probably could. I mean,
Yeah. Give them each a club. Just give them one club each and set them loose. See what happens. Oh my God, I'm bad. I am bad. My phone has just been going off like crazy today.
Well,
Thank
your
God
phone
I have
goes
it.
off
I have
like
it on
crazy
vibrate.
every
Can you
day.
hear it? Can you hear it vibrating?
I haven't heard it yet. No.
This is what I've been listening to. Oh, just quit. Okay. Just quit. I've been getting a lot of, as everybody probably does, gets an increasing amount of spam calls. It's like,
oh yeah,
are they retarded? No one's going to answer these unknown calls.
No,
nobody is. Like, why would you?
And I don't, you get spam calls from local numbers, right? Like they're hijacking somebody's cell phone
spoofing
number.
Spoofing the phone number.
They
Yeah.
spam you, and if you call that number back, some lady wants to go hello, and you're like, yeah, I missed your call, and they're like, I didn't call you. Some company just used their number to make these spam calls, and I'm thinking, what do we have politicians for? What do we vote these people into office for? I mean, are they that powerless that? I mean, if I ran for president, Doug, and my only platform was that we're going to go out and bomb all these Indonesian call centers that try to sell you and defraud money out of us.
Yeah.
Just on that platform alone, you'd probably win because people
Yeah.
are so sick of it.
It is. It's quite a waste of time. They wake you up in the middle of the night. You get these scam. Well, now with artificial intelligence, they're taking voices and making like calls, basically saying they've been kidnapped and you need to send, $1,500 and gift cards and blah blah blah. And they're basically getting family members to call other family members with a clone voice. It's just like, really?
I only have like maybe 8 people in my life that if you kidnapped, I would actually send money for.
Exactly.
So, I mean, I can pretty much do a roundup, a phone call roundup to see if I need to send money or not.
Oh my God. Angelique, can you see her comment? You got to put that up. That was funny. Maybe you don't want us to, Angelique, but it's pretty creative.
I already know a caveman. Pretty sure I was married to him.
Ooh.
Well, there we just made him famous.
Yeah, whoever it was.
Yep. She got her zinger. She got her zinger out there more than just muffling it under her breath that way.
So I typed into Google here this morning, what was the best UFO hotspot for 2022? And it showed a place. Yeah, so it showed a place in England. And the article made no sense. They talked about, they had 42 separate sightings. And then it goes on to say how they had 500 sightings. And then they go on to say, they break it down. They had, in this one town, I don't even want to say it. It was the West Midlands in Warwickshire, Shropshire, Strathshire, Worcestershire, and Headshire, someplace in England. I don't know. A lot of shires.
Mm-hmm.
But it said they had 126 reports. They said 80 of the reports were just orbs. 55 were circular. 52 were spheres. Isn't a sphere the same as an orb?
I was just gonna say.
42 reports
the same. What's the difference?
42 were triangular, and then I don't know. It was like the most confusing article ever.
Mm-hmm.
It was just terrible. But then below it was an article about how the government that apparently tracks these sightings over the U.S. has added an additional 400 to its catalog of investigated sightings. So apparently now they've got the amount is over 500. And I'm thinking, once again, BS. It's probably 500 a day they've cataloged.
Yeah. That doesn't seem like that many for a
No,
year,
it's
does it? I
BS.
mean, good grief.
BS. So it says the assessment office has revealed that the office is tracking UFPs has now a total of 510 sightings. And it's significantly up from the 144 sightings since 2004. And I'm like, oh my God.
And that's the most in the world. I would think the state of Nevada or New Mexico has more than 500 a year. Just one state, you know.
Well, apparently these are more these official sightings. You know, they're like, I don't know. It's just all seems like BS to me. I'll bet you there's 500 really good investigated government sightings per day.
Well, those are tough, the parameters of that, you know, the whole, first of all, the most sightings are going to be where the most people are rather than where the most UFOs are.
Exactly. There's all these correlations.
It's like trying to compare the population of probable Sasquatch in Florida to the state of Washington.
Well,
there's just less people that are out there that could possibly see one in Washington. But yet they probably got 20 times the number of Sasquatch that Florida does. You know, it's just.
So I went out to dinner one time, and I've told this story one other time, but I went out to dinner. There was a friend of mine who I flew out to go see out in Washington State, and he was opening a space museum with somebody who was the head of the Space Command, Colorado. And they had collected, he had like hundreds of space suits and flight suits and, you know, just tons of stuff in his home. You know, all these dummies, test dummies, aircraft test dummies they use. Yeah. But anyhow, so he said, hey, do you want to have dinner with him tonight? I'm like, yeah, great. So I ended up having dinner with the head of the Space Command who was recently retired. And of course, the first question I asked this poor guy is, so are there such a thing as UFOs? And he looks at me in the eye and he goes, there are no UFOs. Like none. Meaning they're identified. There are no UFOs is what he said.
Yeah.
But if you translate that into what he meant,
sure,
that they knew every damn thing that's, you know, flown in the atmosphere. Then he went on to explain how they can count threads on bolts at 500 miles away.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, yeah, I get it. That's what I said to him. I get it. I'll drop it. But he said, there are no UFOs. And I'm like, and it was great too. Really great answer because he didn't violate any of his oaths.
No.
He just said there are no UFOs. Perfect answer.
Yeah, it's gotten to be when you look at what, you know, the head of, you know, when you look at what the head of, what was it that we talked about this last time you were on, the head general in the Air Force had came out when he was looking at these balloons that were moving around, and he's saying we can't rule out that they're extraterrestrials, you know.
Yeah.
You know, now that you start seeing people making comments, go on record making comments like that, you really wonder, is there really a secret line not to cross?
What was with all these articles, Jeff, about the mothership? This came out of like the Pentagon, some general going, well, we may have a mothership in our solar system. And he said it like there was numerous articles that kept happening from different news sources. And I'm like, what do you mean?
Yeah.
And what's your point? Yeah. Once again, it's something kind of most people know. Common sense. We have motherships in our, not in our atmosphere, in our solar system somewhere, you know, with all these jillions and jillions of planets and suns. But it was like, what is your point?
When you see pictures of stuff, like when you hear scientists talking about something that they've discovered in the other side of the galaxy, you know, a planet or this and that, or a star that's doing this or that, and you think you can find that across the galaxy, and then you start hearing we may or may not have a mothership in our own solar system. Yeah, I mean, it's like,
What a dumb statement.
How can you see something from your backyard that's 4,000 miles away, but then I'm not sure, but there may be a squirrel out there on that tree in the backyard. It's like, how do we, unless it's hiding on the backside of Venus all the time? I mean, how do you not know if it's there or not, you know?
Oh, I've just noticed I got to change the subject for a second. Derek McManus, you are busted. You actually won a book on Untold. I don't know if you've texted Alex to alex@untoldradio.am.com, but you won a book. We need to mail you a book. So please text us your address and we will get you out that book today if we haven't done that already.
You'll be sending it to Ireland.
Well, you know, you do like a trivia contest and somebody will answer it, but you missed it because sometimes they scroll up too quick and you think you named the winner, but you actually didn't.
Mm-hmm.
So what we do is we'll always, like, we screw up, we'll give it to both of them. But Derek was actually the first to win it was an answer he put none. Right, Derek? Anyhow, poor Derek. He was so nice he didn't say a word.
Derek. He lives in Ireland. He's a nice guy.
Of course. I always have winners that win.
Well, I was going to say, at least we're sending him a book and not like a 4-foot tall Bigfoot statue.
Yeah.
Or
Remember that?
You know,
you remember that debacle? The Pat Turner won at second, but some guy in England, and I'm like, I am not shipping 200-pound package out to England.
That's the first thing Pat said when he told me. He said, I got this prize package and there was a shirt in it and there was a book, but let me show you what the best thing was. And I said, what? He pulls on camera, he pulls out about a 4-foot tall Bigfoot statue. Says, this thing must weigh 50 pounds. And I said, no wonder we weren't going to send it to England.
Yeah.
Right.
Anyhow, what else we got here? I don't know. I don't have any more notes, but
I seen they said over the weekend, and I don't know if it was Friday or Thursday, but one of these nights there were 5 planets visible in the skyline.
They lined up, yeah.
And I don't know if I've ever heard that before. Did you hear any references to the last time that may have happened? Or
yeah, I mean it was like 150 years ago.
Wow.
Yeah.
That was interesting.
Yeah, and once again, does that also affect our weather? Just planets lining up our space weather. I want the damn space weather report every day on my phone.
Yeah. Well, you know, that piece of that article I read earlier about how in 2018, NASA sent this Parker probe and it's orbiting the sun, and it's going to actually go close enough to touch the corona of the sun. First of all, I don't know what's this thing made out of? I mean, how does it not burn up?
I think it already did one orbit and nicked it already. There was some photographs of the plasma that comes off a very high heated plasma. I don't know. It's like, first off, it would be really cool if it collected the damn, chemical ingredients and then came back. That would be more interesting to me.
Well, and the other thing that's interesting is at the surface of the Earth, when those particles hit the Earth at 45 million miles per hour and they're deflected to our poles, it makes you wonder what those particles are like when they hit an object that close to where they're being emitted from. Would really be interesting.
Yeah, or just what's in it. Why can't they analyze? Thank God they always analyze stuff. Why wouldn't there be I'd have basically a vacuum on it, vacuum in some of the contents of the sun and then send back a chemical analysis. Then I'd be really interested in it.
Yeah, it just blows me away. We got iPhones that if you leave on the dashboard of your car for 10 minutes, they quit working because they got too warm. I don't know how. Well, I'd love to have seen what this probe looks like and how it was designed and what they made it out. I mean, to me, that would be very interesting because it's just crazy that thing could survive being that close to the sun and actually send you data back, but
Yeah, no, I don't know. But maybe they are getting the data, but they're not sharing it. That could be too. You do wonder about that stuff. You wonder what's being shared.
Did you see the movie that came out a couple months ago? I'm trying to remember what it was. Good Night, whatever. About the 2 rovers that were put on Mars.
No,
I gotta send you that link too.
I haven't.
Maybe
It was
somebody
on
can type in
Netflix?
chat what the name of that is. They sent these. Yeah, I think it was on Netflix. They sent, NASA sent these 2 rovers to Mars, and the idea was that they would last 90 days, I believe it was, as far as battery life and its ability to recharge. It likely wouldn't go longer than that. And one of them died kind of prematurely. The other one went on for, if I'm not mistaken, years and years and years.
So is this a movie, fictional?
It's a documentary.
Oh, a documentary.
And it's really amazing, the footage that they have from this thing. And you're hearing the team that designed it. They're in their control thing, talking their room, just like when NASA sends up a rocket, communicating with this rover and getting the pictures back, and they'd put it to sleep while it would charge, and then they'd wake it up and see, is it going to wake up today? Because this thing had gone so far past what its life expectancy was, that it was just incredible. But they showed the terrain, and they were trying to get from one spot to another and they were looking at rocks and the different, the geological makeup of the surface. And it's a great,
I'll look for it. I'll look for it. Well, should we wind it up, or do you want to keep going? What do you want to do here?
Well, that's up to you.
I'm starting to drink. I'm starting to drink Gatorade versus coffee now.
Good Night, Oppie is the name of the show.
Oh, so what is it then? It's non-fictional doc on the Mars
They
mission.
actually interview the actual scientists who built this thing, and they have actual footage throughout the whole thing. They're showing actual footage that was collected.
So it's just about the rovers that were on Mars. Okay,
great documentary.
Yeah, I've been following obviously the rover pictures. Once in a while, you get to see a UFO in the Martian sky. It's quite interesting.
Yeah,
it's quite interesting. You would imagine they have just as many UFOs, over Mars as they do here. I would think.
Yeah, here we've gotten used to looking at the skyline and determining for something that you don't immediately identify what it is, at least what it could be. When you're looking at that atmosphere and that, environment on Mars, you just have less of a library of reference to say, well, maybe it's this or maybe it's that,
I was going to say, Jeff, we need to start a podcast that plays right after coffee time, and we'll call it Potty Time.
Just set the camera up in the bathroom there.
Oh, just the Potty Time podcast. It's right after coffee time.
So
I've had 2 cups of coffee and a bunch of Gatorade.
Do you still drink grape Gatorade? You were drinking
Powerade
Zero.
I ran out. Now I'm drinking orange Gatorade Zero.
Oh.
See?
I had a grape Powerade Zero on my show the other night drinking it, and I just felt like this is the closest to feeling like this must be what Doug feels like, drinking this grape Powerade Zero. I normally don't drink that, but I got to tell you, it's not bad.
It's good. Yeah, it's good. The orange is good in the Gatorade, but once again, it bothers me because there's so many chemicals in the...
Yeah.
It's like, why do they need to put the orange food coloring in? Why do they need to, just do the I get the electrolytes, just do that, and you don't need all this other crap.
Yeah.
It's like, why? Why?
Zero sounds like such a good thing.
Well, we worry about, we want to ban TikTok. Why don't they get together and ban all these damn food additives that have no purpose in our food?
Yeah.
They're killing millions of people, no doubt, every year.
Yeah.
Don't you think that would be a better use of our time Don't ban TikTok, ban chemicals.
It kind of makes you wonder, as different, when you look at how many people died of cancer 100 years ago versus how many are dying of it now, you really kind of start wondering how much of it can be linked to all these unnatural things we started cramming into a diet.
This last, let's say 50 years, where they really started adding the food additives, will be talked about long into history about how we poisoned the population.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no doubt in my mind. It'll be a big thing in the history books 500 years from now. I mean, it'll be looked at like the most cruel thing that's ever happened to humankind. All the strange. Do you really need titanium dioxide in your bread? Not really.
Yeah,
it's not meant to eat. It's not a food. It's poison.
I joked the other day about, remember the movie Grumpy Old Men?
Oh, I love that movie.
Where Burgess Meredith's telling his son how when he was a kid, his dad ate bacon for breakfast and had a bacon sandwich for lunch, and for evening, more bacon. He said, lived to be 90-some years old. And
of course, that was when bacon actually was just smoked. It wasn't full of a million chemicals and nitrates.
It was also back in the day where you got a lot of exercise. You want to go somewhere, you were going to walk somewhere, or you want to mow your lawn, you're going to go out and mow it, chop it down, not ride around on something.
No, it's true.
But yeah, you look at how long people would live and healthy, and now all of a sudden it's like he died at 62, and it's like, whoa, oh, okay.
Well, a lot of people live very long in third world countries too, because they're not exposed to all these food additives.
Yeah.
And they live, they don't think anything will live into 120. It's like not that big of a deal over there, or 90s. It's like every grandma seems to live into their 90s, and men get very, very old, and, and they have no access to medical, services. And even that, look at all the drugs they got everybody on, it's like, I just love it. They go and, I'll go to the doctor. Well, give us the list of drugs you're on, and I'll go, I'm not on any. And they sit and argue with you. You must be on something. It's like, no. And I remember my doctor tried to give me Lipitor, and I'm like, right in the trash with that script. Are you kidding?
Yeah. It's almost comical when you see these medicines, these prescriptions from the pharmaceutical companies, their advertisements on TV. So, they show people all smiling and playing with their kids and playing baseball, and at the end they give you the 10-second list of things that might happen if you take it. It's like, who the hell would take this? I mean,
Grasshopper said, living needs to be hard work, and he's right. That's the healthiest way. Yeah. It's also when the mind is the healthiest, when you've worked a hard day.
Yeah.
Manual labor is something to be said for it. So. It's interesting. So Caillou says ban the moon. Okay. That's easy. It's easy. Well, should we wind this up?
Yeah.
It's been fun.
We'll have Caillou on my show tonight. We're going to play some of his audio, a lot of his audio, some of the stuff that maybe he had that you guys, and that was, understandably why. You had a panel of several experiencers on your show that night, but we're going to give Caillou a couple hours to share some of the stuff that he's collected with audio.
Yeah. Yep. I hope you get your audio organized, because Tristan was not. Make Tristan get really organized with the audio clips.
He sent me a Google file with all the stuff in it, and I'm trying to get it all downloaded.
Yeah, you and Tristan just have a blast. So this Wednesday, I've got the director of the Blair Witch Project.
Oh, wow.
He's also directed a ton of other TV series. Yep. Some of them are actually quite well known. He also did the Bigfoot movie called Exists.
Mm-hmm.
So we've got him on. I've also got John Yost on that same day. So that's this Wednesday. So it should be interesting. Eduardo Sanchez, the director of the Blair Witch Project.
Cool. Yeah, that'll
Hopefully
be
we'll be
interesting.
on.
Look forward to seeing that.
He's booked, you know how that goes.
Yeah, you know, it's I've talked to some guests to have on. I'm like, when can I have you come on? And they're like, well, I could get you in like the third week of August. And it's like, I don't book 4 months out, man. I'm talking about like maybe the week after next, you know.
It can be hard. Yeah, I get, you know, it's tough. It can be tough to nail down the more celebrity guests.
Yeah.
I mean, they'll often, you know, very often agree to come on, but it's sometimes hard to pin them down on a date. Or if you do, they'll write you the week before they go on and go, oh, I got called into here and I got to go to this and I can't do it. Can you book me for next week? And so, yeah.
You know, if you're doing a show that's not live, you kind of could just tell them, look, what you tell me 4 in the morning on Wednesday, I'll be there, right? We'll get it recorded. But these live shows where you got a 2-hour target that's there and you're trying to get them steered into it, it's tough. It gets hard.
Yep. Oh, do you know what Gary Spivey is? He's a psychic.
Sounds familiar.
We've got Gary Spivey on coming up. I don't know what day it is, but it's coming up pretty soon. But he's the guy that wears these big powdered white wigs.
Okay.
He's a real character. He's a super nice guy, you know. And I saw him once at a Dane Cook. I was at Dane Cook. Remember the comedian Dane Cook? Mm-hmm. I was at a Dane Cook concert, and we were sitting in the front row, and Gary Spivey was sitting in the front row down, and Dane was just giving him a hard time about his. But it's not every day you see a guy with a powdered wig. Okay?
Sure.
You know, it's
not every day out of the ordinary.
But we've got him booked, and Alex goes, do you mind if I book Gary Spivey? And I'm like, yeah, that sounds fun. So that'll be an interesting show.
How's Alex doing? He was under the weather for about 10 days.
Yeah, he's doing good. And then Blaine got really sick. And I talked to Blaine last night, and he said, yeah, I just felt he was over the hump. He said it was bad.
Yeah, wow.
You know, I don't think they've had COVID more than once. So this is like their second round of it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the longer you go between getting it, it's almost like you're getting it the first time.
Probably.
Do you remember the first time you had it? I do, and it was not good.
If you had it early 2020 or whatever when it kind of first came out, and it's been 2.5 years, it's probably going to be like doing it all over again.
Well, Blaine took a flight to LA, and it's like, in a flight back, it's like, what do you think?
Yeah.
You know, you always get sick every time you fly. You're always sick like 4 days after you get back.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think he even got it from Alex. He got it from the flight.
Probably.
So, anyhow, but they're recovering. Everybody's fine. Well, hopefully all live. And so with that, please subscribe to the Untold Radio Network. We really need you. Need you to subscribe, and then you can just hit the notification bell for the shows you like.
Yeah.
You know, the actual series of shows, they're all series. We have Wide Open Research, Pine Island Research, your show, Untold Radio AM, my show, Down South Anomalies, Jay
Mysterious
Anastasia's
Library.
show, Mysterious Library with Jason McLean and Dean Bertram, and then Talking Weird with Dean Bertram and Jen Durrell. And I don't think I missed any, did I? Oh, yes, I did. Yeah. We also have the Sasquatch Outpost with Jim Myers.
Our newest one.
Our newest show. Yep, and there'll be maybe 1 or 2 being added here. Probably 1 more.
Yeah, we had Jim on last week on Monday for coffee time. Great guy.
I love Jim.
Boy, you can sit around and listen to stories from him for hours and hours. But
he's a great guy, unless you want to meet him in a casino. I was going to meet Jim. I was at, where was I? I was at the MGM, and Jim was there. And I thought, well, we were talking on the phone. And I'm trying to direct him to find us, right? And it was just hilarious. It went on for like 2 hours of us trying to find each other. Jim is put it this way: Jim does not belong in a big casino. In
No, I
Vegas.
was going to say Jim. When you give Jim directions, he's used to you saying, "Take the second gravel road to the left, and at the dead take a right." And I
Yeah, it was a duck out. It was a duck out of water. Jim at the MGM Grand. It's a duck out of water, and of course they design these casinos. So yeah, we're right by the bar. Well, there's 18 bars.
Yeah.
So anyhow, it was fun. It was hilarious.
It can be disorienting in a place like that if you're not used to it.
But thanks everybody for joining us in chat. Who are you gonna have on next Monday? Who's on?
Well, I believe I got to double check, but Dr. Dean Bertram was either going to be next Monday or the Monday after that. The big thing was we had to get till April when his schedule would free up because he had that.
I think you're talking about Russ, not Dean.
No, I'm talking about Dean because he had that big paranormal
the Weird Fest.
The Weird Fest, yeah.
Yep.
Until we got past that, there really wasn't a date where he was going to be available. So now I believe we're going to try to get him on Monday morning this next week. So
yep.
And I wouldn't mind getting Alex in too, though.
Oh,
that'd be kind of fun.
Definitely get Alex in. Yeah, he doesn't drink coffee, so he'll be a great guest. He doesn't drink coffee, but you can definitely tease him.
Oh, I'll tell you what, watching him on your show, there are so many people that watch your show, Doug, that have developed an affinity for Alex and just his ability to roll with whatever comes at him,
He's great. He's got an innocent side to him. People love him.
It's
People
a
love
little
him.
soft-spoken, but then when you see him talking about something he's passionate about, he's got a great sense of humor and loves to talk about it. So
no, we love Alex. He's always
his laugh is the trademark of your show, I think.
Yeah. He's a great co-host. But so Lori writes, poor Alex, everybody teases him. We love you, Alex. Oh, so nice. Alex needs to get out from behind that mic. I love it. They're teasing him even here. I love it.
Yeah.
So anyhow, okay. Well, good afternoon, everybody. I gotta go. I gotta go work on my taxes.
All righty. Well,
day.
that sounds like you got your work cut out for you.
Yeah. So anyhow, it was fun, Jeff. We'll talk soon.
Thanks so much for coming on.
Bye.
And everybody else, thanks for joining us here at Coffee Time. Another Monday morning under the belt. And we will see you tonight, 9 p.m. Eastern on Pine Island Research. We'll have Caillou Ninja, Tristan Yolton on, and it'll be a fun show. So look forward to seeing all of you.